Good afternoon, Madam Speaker. Good to see you there, Madam Speaker.
Good afternoon, sir.
Through you, Madam Speaker, a few questions to the good representative.
Representative Lamar, please prepare yourself. Representative Srinivasan, you may frame your question.
Through you, Madam Speaker, I want to begin by thanking the good representative for being here for this length of time and very graciously answering all our questions. We appreciate that very much. As I understand this, a person now, if this bill were to be passed, needs to live in our state for 2 years, and having lived in the state for 2 years could then qualify. Is that the right understanding? Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Lamar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, there is a series of subsequent requirements, but the first requirement being that you need to reside in the state of Connecticut for 2 years. Through you.
Representative Srinivasan.
Through you, Madam Speaker, after having resided in our state for 2 years, if that family, including the student, of course, moves out of our state and then comes back to qualify for this intuition, would that student then qualify? Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Lamar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the exact situation that this bill envisions is someone who resides in the state of Connecticut for 2 years, attends a local educational institution for those 2 years, subsequently graduates from that institution, and enrolls, registers and enrolls at a local public institution. Then they are afforded the benefit of in-state tuition. Subsequent sorts of policy decisions, I think, are handled internally based upon when they enroll at the university, but those are the baseline criteria that you have to meet to be considered. Through you.
Representative Srinivasan.
Through you, Madam Speaker, so that I'm clear. So if the student and the family live in the state and then moved out, lived more than 2 years, but moved out, and this student has not graduated high school, has gone through the 4 years, but the final year or the final 2 years are not in a school system within Connecticut, but obviously they qualify because they've been here for 2 years. Will that student then be eligible? Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Lamar.
Madam Speaker, through you, that student would not be eligible as they would not have met the requirement that they graduated from the local institution. Through you.
Representative Srinivasan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you for the clarification. I appreciate that. Do we know, Madam Speaker, as to the number of students that would qualify? I know I've been listening to the conversation and I was not clear if we have an estimate of what these numbers would look like if this legislation were to pass. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Lamar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Through you, we do not have an exact number. Even looking roughly at the testimony, there wasn't a rough estimate other than folks saying it's not a substantial number or an impactful number. I think were the language used by the University of Connecticut with conversations with them. Through you.
Representative Srinivasan.
So through you, Madam Speaker, then it is my understanding that if it is not impactful, if it's not substantial, it would not then have, through you, Madam Speaker, a significant fiscal note to our state. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Lamar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The great representative from Glastonbury hit the nail on the head. It actually has no fiscal impact to the state of Connecticut. The University of Connecticut and the Connecticut State University system both treated this as either generally raising revenue, improving the capacity issues that they have at the State University and Community College system, or in the case of the University of Connecticut, having no impact on their underlying financial sustainability. Through you.
Representative Srinivasan.
Through you, Madam Speaker, does our university, our state universities, do they have a formula for them to be able to stand on their feet as to what should be the mix of in-state students and out-state students? Through you, Madam Speaker, since their financial commitments, obviously, in those two groups are very different. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Lamar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. There is no statutorily defined formula about in-state versus out-of-state students. What there Internally, they roughly are around 80-20, I think is the current makeup within our public university system. Adding further clarification to this subgroup of students that we are talking about, these folks pay full freight. They are not eligible for institutional or federal aid or any publicly funded aid at all. So they ultimately, whatever the cost of admission is, they end up paying it without benefit of financial aid from the university. So ultimately, I think that's where some of the cost, not savings, but how a lot of those costs are accommodated. Through you.
Representative Srinivasan.
Through you, Madam Speaker, and I want to thank the representative for clarifying about what they would be eligible in terms of scholarships and funding. So it is my understanding that any federal grants or state funding that is available to the universities for other students, these students would not be eligible to get any of those fundings. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Lamar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That is correct. Through you.
Representative Srinivasan.
Through you, Madam Speaker, is there a commitment, and I know we have touched upon the subject matter, and I know the good representative was very optimistic in getting these students graduated from our schools and then finding a job, given the economy, given the state that we are in. So through you, Madam Speaker, is there any commitment to these students that they have to commit, not our commitment to them, but their commitment to us, to the university, to the state, that they will be gainfully employed for 2 years or 4 years or whatever there is that it is decided upon? Is there such a requirement? Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Lamar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. No, we don't have a requirement regarding employment post-graduation. I think it would be hard for us to enforce it. And two, I'm not sure how that structure would work. And ultimately, look, I'm a family of immigrants. I'm married to my wife is a family of immigrants. And ultimately, everyone shares that same aspiration. Like they choose a place where they can find opportunity for themselves, for their family. We believe by offering a benefit such as in-state tuition to our children at our public universities, that the numbers are going to bear out in our favor. That the 80% of kids who graduate from our public schools who stay in the state, that's going to be this group of kids too. And when they have that opportunity to be educated in the state and to stay in the state and to work in the state, they have the opportunity to innovate in the state and to grow this state. And this is a public benefit that we think we can afford in accordance with the 19 other states across the country that do so, and is actually an economic competitive advantage for us. I hope that answers the question. I think it gets to the underlying point that the representative was asking. Through you.
Representative Srinivasan.
Madam Speaker, I wish that I could share your enthusiasm about the economy of our state. I wish that was where we were, where jobs were just available, and these kids, not only them, but all our kids, any kid that graduates any school, whether it be an undergrad or postgraduate, would just come out and we would have a long list of options that they would have. Unfortunately, as we know, that's not the reality. But moving to other states, through you, Madam Speaker, where they have such an in-state tuition, do those states, our neighboring states, New York, as was mentioned earlier, do they have any such commitment of their students, through you, Madam Speaker, to remain in the state for X number of years? Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Lamar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Through you, no other state has a tie to their students requiring them to remain in state upon graduation. Through you.
Representative Srinivasan.
Through you, Madam Speaker. A concept that the good representative has talked about a couple of times, including now. I'm still not able to get my hands around that. One is excess capacity, and that we have excess capacity, so giving these students an opportunity to come in and paying in-state tuition will kind of help it because we have excess capacity to begin with. And I'm not so sure, and I just want to be clear, that in these universities there is excess capacity that is not being met at this time. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Lamar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Through you, we had testimony before the Higher Education Committee and other sources in which the CSU system and our community college systems, there is excess capacity within those systems, and that extending this public benefit does not come at cost to anybody else. Through you.
Representative Srinivasan.
And my final question on the same line of thought. So since there's excess capacity, we will, if these students are allowed to come in at an institution, we will be generating revenue. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Lamar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Through you, yes.
Representative Srinivasan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I want to thank the good chairperson for his answers. I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Will you mark